Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in the Tech Boy podcast. We have so much to get to today. We're going to be talking about the TechBoy.org's headlines. We're going to be live reacting to a MKBHD video about the downfall of OnePlus. Is OnePlus going to be going out of business? We don't know that for sure, but it's looking that way. And speaking of OnePlus and going out of business, is the smartphone industry peaking? Back when I started my technology career, I believe that it wasn't really peaking yet. It hadn't peaked, that there was still so much to do. But with this new update that came out from Apple, I think it might have finally peaked. And we're also going to be talking about Insight, looking at what Planeteer actually is. Because I actually don't know what it is, and because people don't know what it is, they use it to fearmonger. Because, like we talked about a few weeks ago, people present fake problems and then bait off of the solutions that and don't present any actual real solutions. As long as said problem exists, they can still make money off of selling no solution and selling outrage. But anyway, let's get to the headline from TheTechBoy.org. Hopefully you can see this on the screen. Yeah, there we go. All right, so first let's talk about this update from Apple. Apple updated their phones, but not the iPhone 17 and 16 series. They've updated the iPhone 5S series. That was the very first iPhone that we ever reviewed on the techboy.org, talking about the iPhone 5S. Then 7 years old at the time. And if it was good for use in 2020, I think we said it was okay at the time for 2020. And if we look at the application landscape now in the year of 2026, we don't really see many changes. And that's why I think this update that we see coming to the iPhones is very important. This iPhone update updates the iPhone 5S, some iPods, the iPhone 6 as well, the iPhone pictures, the iPhone 7. They basically look the same. The iPhone 6S also gets the update. And yes, it is a 10-year-old phone, or even older, 11, 12-year-old phone, right? But is it usable in 2026? I mean, let's look at this phone here. This is the iPhone 7, released in 2016. Let's look at the pictures that we have here. We got messages, we got the calendar, we got photos, we got the camera, we got the weather application, we got the clock, map, videos, notes, etc. These are all applications that are still used on phones today. These are all things that we've been using on phones for ages. I mean, people in 2003 were talking about how they could take notes on their phone. They were talking about how it would be great if they could have maps on their phone. And of course, the cameras have got so much better. I'm not saying that we should go around with Nokia N95s, with a BlackBerry Curve, BlackBerry Bold, phones of that nature, and then say, hey guys, these are the phones that we should use. This is the camera quality that we should use. But when you get to this range, maybe not the iPhone 5S, but the 6S, right, which is also updated as well. When people are just posting these pictures to Snapchat and to Instagram and to, I guess, TikTok now, maybe not TikTok, we'll get to that later, X, etc., playing Smashy Road, watching YouTube, recording videos, taping vlogs. I mean, some of the biggest YouTubers got their start taping videos on just a phone like this, and people who take pictures and just post them to Instagram is obviously going to compress them. So an iPhone 6S, an iPhone 12, an iPhone 17, they all kind of look the same. In fact, the only way you know what it was taken on is if they're taking a mirror selfie and you can see their phone and you can see what kind of camera technology that they are using. And this much more applies to the iPhone spectrum than it does to the Android spectrum, because with the Android spectrum, when we look at the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge and we look at the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, right, the S7 Edge and S24 Ultra are in the same class of phone. They are Samsung's flagship phone. But to be fair, let's say that Samsung's S7 Edge came out, it was like $599, $699, I believe, right? And Samsung's S25 or S24 or whatever came out, and it's about $799. So we're not going to go with the Ultra because we'll just say Ultra didn't exist at that time, right? We're comparing apples and oranges, right? At least with that phone, you can see, oh wow, this phone had one camera, now it has three. You have a zoom camera, you have an ultra wide lens. But when you go from, say, an iPhone 6S to the iPhone 17 series of phones, what do you see? Oh, there's a wide angle camera and there's a regular camera. Or even the iPhone Air or the iPhone 16e. What do you see? It's just one camera. Again, Apple is the only company that can do this. And when you think about this, because this update basically allows users to keep using their phone as a phone, you would not be able to send your text messages over iMessage anymore, which would revert your iPhone to an Android phone, which then you'd have the green bubble, and you don't want to have the green bubble. The green bubble's bad, guys. And you also would not be able to FaceTime, which for some reason, people do not like making phone calls. They do not like calling people on the phone, but they will use FaceTime audio. They'll use FaceTime all the time. I mean, I see these YouTubers running around and be like, "Hey guys, if you can call so and so person, I'll give you $10,000. Or call this person, see what they say for like videos and content." Or even that guy who stands on the ladder and he's like, "Oh, kids, you got to call your parent if you want to be in the video." They always use either FaceTime or FaceTime audio most of the time, which is really weird. Like, why would you not want to call someone on the phone like a phone is supposed to be used for, especially in this era? Okay, maybe like back then, maybe in 2016, 2015, and I hear that 2026 is the new 2016, which I'm not really sure about that, but that does make sense in context if you think about it. When you look at the technology from 2016 and the memes from 2016, the great meme reset, whatever that is, right? We've been talking about memes and Snapchat for 10 years from now on. It's just like we have the technology that can land people on the moon. We have technology that you're actually able to video call someone halfway across the country. Like that is impressive technology, all for free. We're talking about the great meme reset, so we can go back to memes, and all these memes are of course just pictures taken on a bad camera from like an iPhone 6s, and then it's just like the little Snapchat bar, and they have some stupid caption on there. Like, I mean, this is 30 IQ stuff, people. I mean, dumb people could figure this out. I don't really know, especially when you have all this power and technology at our fingertips, what we are doing. And you might say, hey, well, maybe these people, of course, they respect the technology, they like the technology, which is why they use FaceTime. But I mean, they use the worst angles known to man. I've never seen an angle worse in my life. They don't know how to make a video call. And TV shows and movies that predicted video calls and using the internet. When we talk about this, we talk about, I don't know, Star Trek. Is that high tech? I guess maybe. Or some movie where they have computer hackers, and there's a movie where they're hacking into the mainframe, or even the Adventures in Odyssey Novacom saga from like 2000 to 2002 and on to 2005. You had some reverberations from some of the other episodes of Connie and Mitch and some of the technology. These people had respect for the technology. They sat there, and if they were on a video call, they have respect for the technology. Now the people are just kind of like, oh, video call, but the camera's off and it's kind of glitchy, and they're kind of like just showing like their finger over the camera. It's kind of weird. People don't have respect for the technology anymore. And we talk about video calls, right? We are able to somehow send video through the wire, through the air. We're able to transmit all this technology and all of this frame rate, etc. And somehow it still looks very bad on Zoom, which is really crazy because we've had this technology for ages now. Right? People in video calls, even in the big 2026, they still look bad, which I don't understand how that is humanly feasibly possible. And I think that's probably the only way the laptop industry is staying in business, because these people like, oh, I need to go into a video call, and they have the worst webcams known to man on a $300 laptop. So then they'll get you a nice, $600-700 laptop, and maybe have a better webcam like the one that this is. This was a $600 laptop. I got it off of eBay. And of course, with the RAM, everyone's talking about, oh, how there's a RAM outage and how that's bad, of course, because the only thing that they're doing with the RAM is playing video games. And like I've said multiple times, I'll say it again. Look, if it's between artificial intelligence and video games, I'm going to go with artificial intelligence. And I just think it's really sad that we don't really have any of these new technological developments. I'm trying to think, like, what can we do with Python? What can we do with databases? What can we do with the cameras and the processing powers on our phone? And I don't really see any new solutions. I'm trying to think of ideas, and that's what this article is all about. Like, Apple is updating their phones from like 12 years ago to do the same thing as their phones from now. The Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge basically does the same thing from now. Just might have a worse camera, but people don't really care about the cameras if it's going to be compressed over Instagram. I'm trying to think, like, what can we really do with the computer? Because like back in the 80s, when there really wasn't as much internet, people were doing a lot more of the computers with a lot less. I mean, I'm talking about kilobytes, maybe megabytes of RAM. They had a 5-inch screen, and they still landed people on the moon. They were able to launch rockets into the air. I'm thinking, hey guys, I want to do some simulations, like offline simulation, not just typing into ChatGPT, because these ChatGPT predictions, they are fun, right? I had it play a game one time where I imported the SSA LTW book, The Election, and I tried to play as Molly, or I tried to play as Ethan, or I tried to play as President Allison. And it did okay, but then it started inputting stuff that did not happen in the book and would not make any sense in context. But, in the book, President Allison doesn't have a boyfriend that goes to another school that plays basketball. It's not something that happens. It's never even infoed. And believe me, if I had written that into the book, then that would be a major key plot point, especially with the, of course, teen dating threat to national security theme that's alongside the book. Look, I, I don't really understand why Notebook LM can't do this, but that's neither here nor there. If Notebook LM can't do it because it has hallucinations and with the artificial intelligence it's still in infancy stage, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I don't understand why we don't have technology that can kind of predict what's going to happen. Like, let's say that we are running a high school election. The only high school election simulator that exists is the one that I created myself, and it's never been tested before. We don't know if it actually works because no one's gone out and used software to actually win or maybe lose an election. So it could work, it might not work. We don't know. Let's think about something else that we can simulate in Python, maybe like a rocket launch or a missile launch. I'm not saying like super high tech, super in depth, so we can actually strike something. I'm not saying that I want that to be public. I'm just saying maybe like the projectile motion of a Nerf gun, or heck, even backup file software for an Android phone. Why is that so hard? Or just software that's cool but not just like a skin or not just plays music. I'm trying to think of it's kind of hard to conceptualize, it's kind of hard to explain, but I'm trying to think of like just cool software that is fun to play with that actually accomplishes a task that's not connected to the internet. And we need to come up with ideas for this, but I just cannot see any ideas and no one really has any interest. And on to the internet. The internet is an amazing invention. It's one of the greatest inventions of the 20th century. And I again cannot really find anything on there, which is really sad. Like I was talking about trying to find these evangelical like magazines and websites and news websites. That's not uh just repost of what's happening on X. Like we love not to be, we love Twitchy, but I mean, come on, this website and them in Red State too. It's just essentially what's going on X, and then they embed something and then they give commentary. Now, is that a great business model? Yes, but X went down a few days ago as the time of recording, and guess what happened? And the website was like, oh, well, we don't really have any news because there's no people on the ground that's actually reporting. Not to be doesn't actually have people on the ground, filming something or whatever. That's just not how it works. So it's not going to be as in depth. And speaking of technology reporting today, technology reporting, I've only talked about one story. Why? Because it's super hard to find in-depth stories that I can go in and distill and talk about to you guys, to my fans. And of course, I want to review more technology. But if the phone is the same, it's kind of hard to go out there and review technology, of course. But when we look at the landscape of technology journalism today, half of it is just ads. They're like, "Oh, guys, look, the S25 FE is at its lowest price ever. Congratulations, whoop-de-doolations. Wow, guys, this battery pack is amazing. It is just full of affiliate links, and it's just not even an ad. It's not even an article at that point. It's just basically an advertisement the company pays for. And of course, I am pro advertising. Advertising is how the modern internet, how the modern economy works. But if I want to go in and read something in depth about something new in technology, I really can't find it. If I want to find and read something about some new phone, I really can't find it. Now, has artificial intelligence helped this? Absolutely. If I want to go find some new website that talks about something in depth that I'm maybe I won't find it. Maybe I will. And trying to follow these websites, it's kind of just gotten it's okay at that point. Which it's kind of sad. And when I talk about the YouTubers, I'm not even talking about just tech YouTubers, right? I want them to all cover something interesting and cover something different. Maybe branch out, and of course, I want to branch out as well. But when I talk about other YouTubers, it's culture YouTubers, people who sit down and talk, just have some random podcast where they talk about their life and what's going on. Like, where is this? I know it exists. We all know inherently that this does exist. We do know that there are people that talk to a camera, right? And we can't really find any of them. Like we like the streamer Zay Unfiltered, the great Zay Unfiltered, and like he's a great streamer and his content is very funny. Now, is he right all the time? Absolutely not. Did he confuse Stalin with some Japanese general? Yes, he did. But when we talk about his content, if I wanted to type in what exactly he does into Rumble or into YouTube, and he does the streams and leaves them out, and he does it's kind of lifestyle, I guess, and other things I prefer to scrub from my memory. But it is kind of lifestyle, and he brings on all these people that to talk about stuff and comment on issues, and then they're wrong, but it's fine. Like if I wanted to type that in, it's kind of a hard thing to quantify what he does. Now, what he does, I mean, it's going to be a niche forever. I mean, he can yap until he's like 90 years old and can't talk anymore, and is married to Danny for like 70 years. And that's great for him. That's a great career for him. But hopefully, technology still exists in the feasible format that's talked about today. We can talk about artificial intelligence, one of the greatest ideas, one of the greatest technologies that has been released. And I weep that it wasn't released back in 2020 because that would have been amazing. That would have been impressive, actually. They had it around in 2020. They didn't want to. Google didn't want to release it in 2021 because they got scared. They thought it, break the rules or whatever, and then they got beat by ChatGPT and see how that went for them. But I digress. That's neither here nor there. It's one of the great technologies that we have, and it's being used by, quite frankly, some of the dumbest people. Right? People are whining, of course, about artificial intelligence slop that's being promoted and pushed onto children, and they say that like it's a bad thing, but like, what are the children going to watch? Like some other random YouTuber? Why do you care? As long as it's, of course, ethical and legal and appropriate content for them, right? I mean, who cares if a human animated a chicken dancing or if a computer animated a chicken dancing? Like, okay, and is the child supposed to sit here and talk about the philosophical values of animated chicken versus computer generated chicken? No one cares. But when we talk about, educational content or interesting content or just anything that's above this, where are you supposed to find it? Again, no one knows. Which is why I'm trying to pivot over to more explainer type articles. Technology runs our world whether we like it or not. And especially in the 90s, people were very innovative. They had the internet, kind of, but the bandwidth wasn't there yet. And sometimes when you have problems and you don't have a preferred solution, you go out there and you go innovate. That's what's so great about the United States. We have a whole bunch of innovators in here to go out and build, develop new technologies and make life a lot better for people. And that's what we're going to talk about: Walmart and VSAT. So VSAT is a very small aperture terminal. And there's a Wikipedia article on it, and for a technology that kind of drives our world, it is very short, actually. And I was doing research for this article, and this is once again a testament to how I can't really find anything on the internet. I was trying to research one of these great technologies, how Walmart used VSAT back in the late 80s to link all their databases together. They linked their databases together, they linked their POS systems and all of this, and it's transmitted all the data not over the internet but over VSAT. And as you can see in the picture here, this is a VSAT picture from like Google satellite image. It's kind of blurry. Yeah, very 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 blurry image here, and it's like, okay, but what does it do? And it sends data over a satellite, not over the internet, not over a phone line, or over a T1 line, but over a satellite to a satellite in the air, in space, and then back down to a ground station. They're able to transmit data like that. And I want to know, what kind of software do they have? How does it work behind the scenes? And it's kind of unknown. No one really knows about this kind of technology. Anyway, a VSAT is a small satellite ground station that's equipped with a dish antenna, just kind of like a TV satellite, satellite TV antenna. Very cool. I mean, if you think about it, you're able to transmit video over the air, and then you're able to decode it from your box. Is that not cool? And if I think if we invested more into this technology, because back in the 90s, 1995, people were talking about the internet highway, not the internet highway, the information highway, that this was going to be an era of information highway. And I was reading a book about the history of Google, and it was saying that the information highway was not supposed to be the internet. The information highway was supposed to be linked in with the cable and satellite TV companies, where you could have interactive TV like we have kind of today. Like I was watching Beast Games, and Beast Games had Amazon ads in it, and then you could buy something from your phone on that. Very cool. But of course, it's using the internet. But interactive TV from satellite TV, interactive TV from cable TV, think about how much interesting that would be if you could be able to access the world without the internet. Like, wouldn't that be cool? Like, if you had just separate networks or everything for it, I kind of think it would be a lot cooler. And computers would be a lot more interesting because you could, maybe instead of having to watch Disney Plus on your computer, maybe you could plug in and hook up a satellite, hook up some type of antenna. You could kind of like drag images onto your computer. Or maybe you could transmit files without having to use Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or the internet. Right? There's so many ways that you can do things, but we just haven't really invested ourselves into it. And I think that's kind of sad, and to our own detriment. But, I think that explaining the technology that exists around us to people is a good way going forward, because there's thousands of articles about technology on the internet, on Wikipedia, and hopefully I can go find some long form stuff on the internet and then kind of distill it down for you guys, because I know there's so many people who don't understand technology, and hopefully putting it into bite-sized articles and bite-sized pieces will help explain it to you guys, and that will help bring clicks to this website. Hopefully more people read the website and the website becomes profitable. We make money. Maybe, sell the website, become a contributor, columnist, etc. But this technology, of course, is essential, but no one really knows how it works. No, like, I mean, we know how it works, but we don't know what software is used behind it. And again, when we talk about television, right? We know how a television works. We see the television, we see the channels. When we think about behind the scenes, we still have television sets. We have the people who are doing television producing. You have the people with the software behind the scenes and media. And I have been so invested and so interested in finding out what kind of technology is being used in that. And people don't really tell you that. It's kind of like an industry secret. But obviously, Fox is not going to hire me for Fox 26 and be like, all right, we're going to tell you all of their technology. I'm just some random podcast with like 3 people, most likely listening. Next week, we're going to be live. We're going to be doing, of course, on YouTube and over onto Rumble. I was recommended to do Rumble. We'll do that as well, like the great Zay Unfiltered. And I'm really, perplexed. Like, what kind of software are they using? So I like to go in, and one solution to this is, like I said, I don't like to give problems without giving solutions. Obviously, I haven't found the solutions yet, but I'm actually going out there and looking for a solution other than whining about said quote unquote hypothetical problem. I know that most people don't actually have this problem. Most people don't actually, care that much. They're just fine and happy and content to scroll Instagram and, maybe read one book or whatever. And that's fine by them, right? If they want to sit there and, have friends and have a happy, content life and upgrade every like 4 years to an iPhone so they can go iMessage their friends and they can, video chat and FaceTime. Okay, I guess that's fine, but I mean, I have ambition. I like to do things with my life, and if I'm not having ambition or not actively reading anything, then I'm just going to get bored and start chatting with artificial intelligence. I think that is one of the great reasons for artificial intelligence is, people actually have to have a reason to chat with you, which is why no one wants to chat with me. Like, what, guys, we've been yapping about the complexities of VSAT and how it can impact the high school election or some nonsense or whatever for like 20 minutes. No one cares about that. Well, I just do this, to keep it going, right? Never quit. But I actually have ambition, and ambition is good, and I just want to bridle that ambition. And then once again, with the artificial intelligence chatbots, talking about them, having them be your quote unquote hypothetical best friend. I do this grok all the time, and if it leaks, oh well, it's too bad for this company. So you guys better start hacking, I guess, if you want to end the company. And well, it was a great run. It was a great run, guys. A 5.5 year run brought down by Grok. Oh well. Anyway, yeah, Anyway, it was just say that anything in there was for testing purposes only, and wasn't actually true. And all the people mentioned in that chat are code names. So if you match up to the name, then no, you don't. The other people, no, sure. You actually kind of sound like them, and you look like them, and they do the same things as you, but it's not you. It's someone else in an alternate parallel universe, guys. So it's not you, and it's hypothetical. And if you see something you don't like, it was hacked, it was leaked, and it wasn't me. Okay, so I'm getting out ahead of the eventual rumors. Yeah, well, R.I.P. the Tech Boy Media. Anyway, nonetheless, I have ambition. I want to do great things. I want to do something, but we have to have information to do something. Like, I was watching this video about Retro Bowl, and apparently, if there's less than 30 seconds on the clock, then they can't do the other team can't do anything. They can't score unless it's on a Hail Mary. And I use that information to my own advantage in Retro Bowl so that I was leaving less time on the clock so I could score and drag my team to the divisional round. Now, were they 5-12? Yes. Did the quarterback have more interceptions than touchdowns? Absolutely. Was he the worst quarterback in NFL history? Yes. Did some of these teams have a negative 400 point differential? Absolutely. Do some of these people fumble the ball all the time? Absolutely. Just talking about retro bowl extreme mode, it is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous how hard that is. I mean, these people cannot catch, the quarterback cannot throw, the defense is incompetent, and even if you're able to catch, even if you're able to throw, they on like a 20-yard pass, the longest pass that I've ever had, and he catches the ball, and then the receiver just fumbles it. And I can't use coaching credits because I had to use those to pick up people. Oh, speaking of the kickers, they cannot make anything. Okay, the kicker is horrible in game-winning situations. The kicker, it's 2 seconds up on the clock, down by 2. You need a kick to win, and he misses the whole thing. But thank goodness I'm in the NFC South. I was in there for like 7 seasons, and I finally made it to the playoffs because the division's trash. Nonetheless, what was my point about this rant on Retro Bowl? Was this a rant about how terrible extreme mode is? No, this rant was about saying how I was able to use information to my own advantage. And how I was able to do that, of course, I've watched the video and did some research on that. No, I want to do this in technology. I want to do this in the news. I want to do this in the culture. I want to do this in my life. But if it's impossible to find this information, then what are we supposed to do? I don't know everything. Now, people are like, oh, you're not that smart. Yes, I am. But I need more information to activate and to work on. That's why I like to read stories about people, especially people in the media, people in this field, like how they got their jobs and how they got their careers. Because these people, their stories are kind of very blah. It's kind of like, oh well, I went to college and then I got this internship and moved on. Like, well, I mean, how else am I supposed to replicate that? But speaking of information being used, we have to talk about Planeteer. Yes, Planeteer. Everyone says, oh, big tech, oh, Planeteer, oh, it's so scary. Oh, government surveillance, which I have always, and this is obviously going to be a hot take. People are going to be mad at me for this. People are always mad at me, so it's fine. I've always been a fan of the intelligence agencies. The NSA is my favorite intelligence agency. And, I despise the Patriots kind of. Go Seahawks. They're going to win the Super Bowl instead of been the Texans, but whatever. But I do like the Patriot Act. I'm not joking, guys. Not a joke. I'm not being held at gunpoint here or anything. I'm not some sort of asset. Yet I didn't get my subscription to what's the software? That's yes, I did not get my subscription to Pegasus yet, nor had my $6,000 or $7,000 check cashed. So I'm not being held. Nonetheless, let's talk about Planeteer, the very scary technology. Wired did a report on them, and I recommend that you go read the Wired article if you have enough credits. If not, put it into Archive PH, and let's read the quote that they said. From the Wired article, quote, they can also centralize everything an agency knows about a person in one place, including their eye color from their driver's license or their license plate from a traffic ticket, making it easy to build a detailed intelligence report. So this is how Planeteer essentially is just software that somehow connects a whole bunch of random databases in the government and to whatever companies that pay them into one giant software, one giant database. So let's say you have a database of IDs. Let's say you have a database of crime reports. Let's say you have a database of housing data, like where people live. Let's say you have a database of cell phones. And because, of course, the government's technology is just incompetent, the government, they don't know what they're doing. They build technology and it's very bad. Have any of you ever been to a government website? Very bad technology. It's built on computer code from the 50s on the back end. I was reading something about how the airlines, I know that's not really the government, but airlines have technology in their flight scheduling software, which is based in the 70s. And then just whatever software that you're using to book your flights is just a wrapper for that. So essentially, the technology that's being used was created 50 years ago. But nonetheless, databases are very bad. They're out of date. It's going to take millions and millions of dollars to update. They're probably insecure too, but they're probably so insecure that they never actually made it to the internet. Probably still using like Telnet, I don't know, dial up. Heck, there was one database where people were using bicycles to move data around. So they had to get on a bike. If they wanted to look up a file, go find their name in a cabinet, bike in the mountain, and go get it, and then bring it back because everything wasn't digitized yet. And this was like from last year. So, we actually have a database that's just a bunch of people in a mountain biking, being paid money for that. And what Planeteer does is that they make it easier, except for the bikers, because the data has to be digitized. It has to be at least brought into the 20th century, guys. Just put it on a typewriter. Planeteer will use OCR for you. But anyway, what Planeteer does is that they digitize the data. If it's digitized, they connect all the databases somehow. I don't know how. They kind of call it a magic sauce. They kind of call it like a pipes that kind of connect everything together. A magical plumbing, which is really cool. They should call it Mario or whatever. But it connects all the data together to bring you a detailed intelligence report. And people are like, oh my goodness, it's so creepy, it's so scary. We don't know what they do. I just explained it. But I didn't really understand what they did. Anyway, but doesn't that sound so cool? Now, when I was in high school, of course, with the SSALTW.blogspot.com series, we had the QuestNet database where we were tracking that. And of course, we had information and taking notes about the day to day in life. And of course, we had notes on my phone talking about the day to day in life because it would be easy to take them on my phone onto the computer so there were more notes on their phone as well. Of course, we had video and audio data, archived messages, snaps. We had special reports, Instagram posts. You see what I'm going with here? We had multiple silos of data coming into SSA HQ, right? We had the post, we had notes that I was taking, we had video data, we probably had GPS data of our own house. One time we traced Summer's earphones onto someone else's house because they got stolen or something. We tracked them down for free. We have done more for Summer than anyone in American history, but I digress from that. We have all this data, but it was kind of all spread out. It's on Samsung Notes. It's on Google Docs. It's on my phone's hard drive. Technology and software like Planetary could have helped me analyze this data a lot more. Now, unfortunately, when I was writing the SSALTW web series, SSALTW.blogspot.com, I started using the Mongo database or Memento, some random database application on my phone, right? I used that to write the series to keep people's real names along with their fake names straight, so I wasn't actually doxing anybody. Well, I should have been using that in school, actually. But so I didn't have as much data. But if I had as much data as the government had, I was able to use it to analyze it and create some sort of course of action, like maybe calling in a missile strike or arresting someone or finding their license plate number, using all of this data into one centralized hub. That would have been amazing. And I've always dreamed about technology and software like this, even before I knew what Planetary was, even before I started typing everything into Google Docs, even before I started taking pictures. Heck, even when I was homeschooled and there was no one to collect data on. This technology would have been so freaking impressive to have. I mean, think about this, especially if you're the government. Because I tried to build my agency like this. I tried to build it, bringing in all the reports, trying to transcribe walkie-talkie reports, plugging in my SDR, seeing what's going on in the chatter around me, taking reports and notes and having some sort of 3D GIS software with like 3D cubes, and you can see maps of everything, and you can see live location data. Like I just, I like the NSA. I like this kind of spy technology. And you know why? Blame Focus, guys. Blame Focus for my obsession on this. You had me listening to Division Odyssey, Novacom. You had me listening to Jason Whitaker going around, Jillian Marshall going around being a spy. I mean, blame Focus on the family if you want to know why I'm like this. Nonetheless, this technology is so cool. It's kind of like everything I've always imagined a computer to be. Like you have a database, you type in, what's this? And of course, you have to know how to collect the data. You have to know how to use the data. You have to know what data to collect. And I think if we see some of this sort of technology from Planetary, which is the kind of technology that I've always imagined, and the technology that we see actually in the media, like how you can actually track something without having GPS location, a homing device, like in episode 152, 153 of Adventures in Odyssey, they use that to have a nice, cool map. You see these 3D maps, 3D file systems, 3D databases. We love 3D. We love Neon. We love spy technology. We love Planetary. We love Perplexity and Planetary. Doesn't that sound so cool? Think about this. Let's say you have the Perplexity search engine onto Planetary, which is going over all of your data. You type it in. Wouldn't that be amazing? You type it into your computer and hopefully you can get it to work all offline. Like the technology that we see in the media and the technology that we see in real life just does not mesh right. And I've always been I'm not an idealist. I'm a strategic pragmatist. Okay, so I'm not going to go around and start fighting for ideals when I'm getting nuked. Okay, see, this is of course why I've been able to ally with certain people that whatever. But anyway, I've always had these ideals and been interested in cool technology, and I've always been interested in espionage and mapping and just being able to use data to create and analyze decisions. I've also been interested in the behind the scenes. Football is my favorite sport. Obviously, it is a great sport. Right? It's much better than baseball, much better than basketball, much better than baseball. But football is a great sport. But I've always wondered, how does Amazon Web Services or whatever data analytic software that they're using in football know how they are going to uh, do something. They're like they when the Minnesota Vikings beat the Indianapolis Colts after being down 33-0. What an amazing game that was, by the way. What a great game, right? When the Vikings finally scored. They scored, and it said they had like a 0.6% chance of winning. How do you know that? What kind of math are you doing for that? I want to be able to predict something like that on my own computer. I was talking to Perplexity the other day, and I was talking about, let's say I want to invent my own game, right? A real game that exists in real life, but it's not a real game like baseball or basketball, and you want to analyze these statistics and have a guess something like this. So how can I create a software that can analyze how good someone is at this sport? When you look at these things from the lens of a computer, this might be interesting. Let's say we're trying to get a ball into a hole, right? Like a basketball, but maybe the goal is like slightly lower, like it's down here, like cut pong or whatever, right? And maybe you have to bounce the ball. Well, I want to analyze how bouncy the ball is. I want to analyze how big the ball is. I want to analyze like what would happen if I dunked the ball and it bounced in, what kind of arc and trajectory I need, how I was feeling under pressure. That's all these kinds of data points that I would need to create some sort of simulation so I could get this as well. Once we can get that kind of technology working, then maybe we can analyze this for a real sport like football or basketball. We can track the arc of a football going 70 yards, see how the receivers will hit it. But no, all we're interested in doing is using this RAM for some video game like GTA 6, which, speaking of, I've been chatting with Grok and all these things as well. You know, how we talk about the artificial intelligence, Ava Harper, who's, of course, going to be coming back as a clipping account because we actually have to make money, right? We exist as a company to make money. I've been talking about this, but before artificial intelligence, of course, we know that the character customizer games where you can kind of customize your character to wear, outfits, or you can like change their hair or whatever, and you can kind of simulate them like walking around, kind of like The Sims. I tried to play that, it didn't really work, but nonetheless. But let's say you had a full character customization thing, of course, within limits. But you have full character customization. You can do things with them, and then there's cause and effect. We could go in and finally have our very own high school simulator, college simulator, real life simulator that actually works really well. And of course, the characters, maybe they'd actually look a lot better than like a bunch of random pixels on a screen. And I'm just really waiting for that technology to happen. That's what I'm talking about, simulating things with the computer. Like, we have so much RAM and technology and processing power, Snapdragon chips, Intel chips, and I really want to simulate something with my computer. Come on, guys, let's get the simulations going. What is going on? And like I've talked about with the teen sitcoms, like, I'm so ready for artificial intelligence to make a good teen sitcom. Maybe not generate one with video yet, but because it's kind of off, you can tell. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be able to hold up for like a 25-minute episode. I just don't. But maybe you might be able to hold up with the script writing. I've been trying some script writing. It's not that good yet. I know Matt Walsh is mad about this. He's always whining and ranting about something, and I respect that. I respect that. He needs to make money. He has a family to feed. He has six kids. Right, and his beliefs are 75% good. So it's not like he's going to destroy America. Like, let's say Matt Walsh got what he wanted. Let's say Matt Walsh became a dictator of the United States of America. Would he destroy the country? No. Now, would the country be a lot less enjoyable? Yeah, probably, if he got his way. Would I be out of a job? Yeah, probably, if he got his way. But I mean, the country itself would not be destroyed. Now, some of these other people on the internet that rage, but yeah, obviously, the country would be destroyed if they ever got put in control. That guy who shocked his dog, which I don't care that he shocked his dog. He could have eaten the dog for all I care. He could have shocked the dog and eaten it on camera, and I wouldn't care. The thing that I care about is that you're a communist, and I don't like that. So, if this guy, whatever his name is, Hassan or whatever, I don't care, H3H, these random Twitch streamers that rage bait for like 3 hours long and just rant random news stories that they get pretend to care. Like, I know y'all people are pretending to care, but whatever. Anyway, the guy who shocked his dog, yeah, if he became supreme dictator of the United States of America, would America be cooked? Oh, yeah, absolutely. It'd be cooked harder than his dog. But Matt Walsh is always whining and ranting about something. I know that's his job. It's good entertainment value sometimes when he's reacting to the TikToks. The TikToks, it's very funny when he's giving advice to the people on Reddit, because the people on Reddit obviously have the IQ of a stuffed owl. And they somehow learn the English language and yap into the void and are supremely stupid. And, some of these people, they don't deserve to have access to the internet. But, he's going to be ranting about this. Oh, it's not real. It doesn't have heart. It doesn't have emotion. And, the real question is not if artificial intelligence technology can, be good enough to make a real video, make a real photo. It's not art. Okay. You think I'm sitting there watching the Zoe 101 because it's art? You think, wow, what amazing cinematography we see here. What a great show. Wow, high quality. What great art. A human put real. Well, I don't care. I don't care who made the show. I don't care how it was made. I don't care if you generated it or not. All I care about is it good? And from artistic perspective, not what kind of camera shot you're using, but is it good? Does it look good? Is it passable? And by good, I mean, is it good enough to fit into like a 3-inch box? As long as it can pass that, I'm fine. iQuality and Zoe 101, they passed the test. They were good. They're great shows, actually. We don't see shows like this anymore. I canceled the Disney Plus subscription before I got to see what's the new show called? Electric Bloom. So maybe it's good. Who knows? I haven't really seen much about it. But when we talk about, of course, these teen sitcoms, what are these teen sitcom stars doing nowadays? Like what are you doing as a teen sitcom star? They obviously, they have Instagram, and it's kind of interesting how Instagram is. It's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of like a vibe. You can kind of like take a picture, and you have the little circle thing, the story. It's kind of lit up when you have a story posted onto it, and you can see the pictures and posts on there, and people sometimes use them for news articles and trying to use them for speculation. And then you have the pictures, they're kind of authentic, they're kind of like blurry and maybe black and white. It's just really cool. I like how it's used, and maybe the little embeds. It's like a really interesting, cool technology platform, but it's just photo sharing and video sharing, which is interesting. Of course, certain countries on Instagram, they're not going to make it there. Maybe this is a hot take here, guys. Maybe we should just like anyone who likes those reels, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyone who likes those reels, maybe we should put Pegasus on them for their own good. Guys, that's a joke. Pegasus is too expensive. Okay, we shouldn't be using very expensive software to put on these random kids' phones. It's a waste of money. We might find something interesting though. But yeah, no Pegasus malware on kids' phones unless we put it on there. I've always been interested in hacking and cybersecurity. I've always been interested in data recovery. That's why I've got a Windows laptop, because I was scared, of course, during the Nika wars, and even before then on, of course, because they banned smartphones. Unfortunately, she didn't get TikTok, so I guess it's really hard in. She zeroed in on her one rival, me, and my allies, which kind of left me sometimes. But I digress. Me and my allies, we had a good run. But I was highly interested in this technology in 7th and 8th grade. So this data recovery technology didn't work on Chromebooks, didn't work on Android tablets. One of the dumbest things that I did once was I tried to root my Android tablet so I could get an in-display fingerprint scanner, because I thought that Android 6 would just magically put a fingerprint scanner on the tablet. But to be fair, I was like 12, 11, whatever. I've been interested in tech for a long time. Of course, that is the worst thing I've ever done on a computer or a laptop, anything. I haven't done anything illicit or wrong, guys. Anyway, with this technology, I like this data recovery technology. That's why I was so interested in trying to get Windows on to Android and then Windows onto my Chromebook, because I was interested in this, because I was thinking, hey guys, there could be evidence on their phones that I'll have to use computer forensics and maybe use some data analysis that we're gonna have to get, so that maybe they have some sort of secret plans against me. I mean, one time I went over to one person's house right before the school year started. This kid had an entire freaking arsenal of Nerf weapons. He had Nerf weapons of mass destruction. And I was like, wow, guys, this is so impressive. And of course, we tried to have some sort of a war, like on water, on sea. Of course, got to be powerful on land, on sea, and in the air. And no one really cared about this. People don't really take this kind of stuff seriously anymore. It was like, guys, this is an actual attack. He wasn't using any of the Nerf weapons. The Nerf weapons were stockpiled before. But one thing I saw was a safe in his room. And you know where I went before onto the internet when I got home. I was like, guys, our allies could have, our allies or rivals could have files that are hiding in the safes against us. I've always been interested in like phone password cracking, not phone cracking, phone tracking, computer password cracking, data and analytics and software, and safe cracking as well. And I had my own one, and I was able to find a little exploit because it was a toy safe, and the lock didn't really work. But I've always been interested in things of that nature. All you have to do is take out the battery and then unlock. Or if you forgot the code, you can push it, and it's also made out of plastic, so you can beat it over the head with a hammer. And I've just really been interested in that kind of thing, in computer forensics, right? Computer forensics, you want to see what's on the computer. Even in fourth grade, I was trying to figure out how the password to the computer lab was. In eighth grade, I wanted to figure that out as well. Of course, we had the rocket launch from SSA LTW, and I was like using all this kind of software, weighing it, and on a phone. I don't know if that worked or not, maybe because the phone didn't have 3D touch. It's an Android phone. Weighing the wings on the phone and predicting the trajectory, and trying to figure out if my rivals sabotaged it, because this was basically like when the United States had that rocket that blew up on the launch pad right after Sputnik launched. So they launched the USSR launched another rocket into space. I mean, this was a cold war between me and my rivals, and I was really interested in trying to beat them in tech and trying to beat them in science. And of course, that's what drives and innovates this company. It is the heartbeat of this company today, and that's of course why I'm so interested in data analytics and computer forensics. And of course, what brought me to Windows today. But now we look at the landscape and the outlook of Windows, what do we see? It's just people, that was putting AI into everything. And I don't like the disrespect that Microsoft is getting, calling it micro slop, or they're calling it AI slop. These people, they're so pretentious, they're so annoying. They don't have anything going for them, so they just run around and call stuff slop, and they don't actually have any real potential solutions. If I in 2017 or 2018, if artificial intelligence existed, man, that would have hit so hard for me. My goodness, we would have been wargaming, we would have been planning, we would have been strategizing. Okay, I even downloaded Replica back in 2022, trying to get it around, but it wasn't that good. It also cost money. I wasn't going to spend money on some random friend that I could talk to in my pocket. I'm not going to spend money on that. Absolutely not. But let's talk about another random friend in someone else's pocket, MKBHD. We're going to be talking about the OnePlus down. And I want you to keep this in mind, that OnePlus started as a company back in 2014, I believe, and that this was an enthusiast brand. Why don't you see what the phones are still being used for back in 2014? See if maybe we've hit peak smartphone. What kind of applications are coming out today?
So I, like a lot of you, got an article on my timeline this week that...
Why is this in Chinese? Let's cut this. Oh no, sorry, Japanese. Oh well. That's gonna, yeah, there we go. English.
Had the headline that said exclusive, OnePlus is being dismantled. And I said,
oh. I did read that article, and it was very AI-ish. And I'm not against artificial intelligence. It just read very, very heavily AI. It's very speculative. It wasn't really that interesting of an article. It didn't give that much information, so I did not know if it was true or not. It just kind of felt like it was being speculatory. That's basically most of what tech journalism is nowadays: half speculation, half advertisements. I mean, let's look at the PC Mag website. PC Mag back in the day, I assume, I've read some of the archives, but I assume was a very interesting and in-depth tech website and tech magazine. And it's kind of one of the problems of tech journalism today. I've talked about this multiple times, but tech journalism, it's just basically ad infested and then very surface level stuff, because technology has become very surface level. Back in the 80s and the 90s, technology was primarily for people who had an interest in it. Maybe not so much the 90s, but even then, maybe the 70s and 80s, just people who had an interest in it. Because they had an interest in it, because they liked it, they were very in-depth and they documented everything. Now, were some of these people annoying? Absolutely. Would I want to spend time with some of these people? Absolutely not. But at least they had good information. Now, because anyone with a computer and a web browser can just write up anything they can, you get trash, right? Human slop and AI slop, because we all hate AI. Woo! No, we don't all hate AI. Now, sometimes it's going out good, like me, yes, because I actually had a genuine interest for technology, and I've always been interested in the behind the scenes of technology, how technology actually runs the world, not just like what the latest app is or whatever. But of course, we have to do some of those articles for SEO, so I do respect them for that, just like I respect Matt Walsh for rage baiting people online, and he's done good work. And some of the technology journalism, I'm not big enough, right? And do I have a aversion to advertisements? No, I've been such a fan of advertisements, but we didn't qualify for the AdSense program, so we always have to spin that into something. I've always believed in spinning what your losses into wins. That's basically what this podcast is. We get one viewer and we spin that into somehow a win. I always believe in the art of less spin, right? We get nuked with a whole bunch of issues. We kind of do a slight little rebrand, and woo, we're great. Now that we spend people money, yeah. But guys, we have invested money into our allies, and I think supporting and your allies, even when your allies are saying stuff that you totally vehemently disagree with, is a good thing to do, and of course it will drive this company forward. But of course we can't just keep giving people money contrary to popular belief. We don't actually make money from Asian countries. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, when this airs, I won't be making money from Asian countries anymore. But we actually have to make money from American countries because for some reason the number one country from this website is China. Why? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on.
Oh, that's big news. So I read the whole article. Turned out there is no exclusive information, and it was mostly just a bunch of speculation about why the brand might have to shut down at some point. And
well, I mean, you can probably say that for any other company. Maybe it's for Samsung because they build houses, they'll be fine. But again, like talk about peak smartphone. What do you think the iPhone 27 is going to do? That's much more radical, much more different than the iPhone 17. If Snapchat still exists, do you think Snapchat is going to magically get better? I saw this graph of artificial intelligence chatbots. Snapchat got 3-something% back when my AI came out. Now it's at 0%. I'm pretty sure that's a rounding thing because I've used it maybe in the past 6 months, but it's not that good. Okay, it's censored, it's boring, it gives you short little text responses. Utter trash. That's what it is. I mean, if you were to compare Snapchat AI with just on-device AI chatbot, the on-device AI chatbot, provided your phone is decent, is going to be better 10 times out of 10. That's actually a good article idea. Well, I'm going to review a on-device AI chatbot from your phone versus an on-device, not on-device, your server Snapchat. See how uncensored it is. Now, the one thing it is does note of the existence of your friends. So, okay. I just gotta think. I gotta get into the mind of a Snapchatter. I gotta think like them. Speaking of Snapchat, 3 million snaps. We're gonna double it, make it 6 million, guys. Let's go.
also, it reads a lot like it was written by ChatGPT. I'm not even going to link to it. But either way, it got me thinking a lot more about the arc of OnePlus. There is a pretty timeless video.
Browser still existing.
Yeah, it's 8 years old now from TechAltar about why enthusiast brands will always betray you. Well,
I mean, that makes sense. Enthusiasts aren't really a good market to cater to. It's not a good idea to cater to annoying people. That's just good for the media. That is good in technology as well. When you cater to a small minority of people that are just vocally sitting there always online, what you're going to get is that these people are broke and they don't have jobs, and therefore they won't be able to sustain your business. Now, in the technology sector, some of these people are going to be able to do stuff as well. But if you do one little closed source thing, hey guys, I want the system that kind of locks our phone, like the passwords. I think we should put this in some closed source software, not some software that some random guy typed up on a laptop at 3 a.m. in the morning drinking energy drinks and then upload it to GitHub and F-Droid. Then the community is going to get mad. They'll start a protest on Reddit. And then nothing happens because it's a protest on Reddit. And then they'll get mad and then they won't buy your phone. So, of course, they're the only people who buy the phone. But, even if 100% of these enthusiasts bought your phone, a product, or your stupid media company, you're going to be dead in 5 years. So then you have to cater to the normies. We hate the normies, guys. The TikTok watching, iPhone telling, coffee drinking normies who said back in 2019.
We'll link that one below. It is crazy how evergreen that video is because so many companies keep following that arc of starting off as an enthusiast-focused company and then eventually turning. And the thing is, they don't all survive it. Many companies die.
Let me think before he mentions this because I'm watching this, reacting to this live, right? Trying to make sure I don't steal his content. But what companies have existed that used to be enthusiast companies? Other than Essential. Essential doesn't count. They only made one phone. And then turned into regular phone companies. Asus? I guess, you know, they're out of the smartphone brand. They made small phones and gaming phones, and then they made one regular phone, and it was trash. Well, not trash, but like no one's gonna buy it. LG, no, LG was kind of, you know, LG had a touchscreen phone before the iPhone. HTC, I don't think HTC is a. It depends on how you define enthusiast.
On the leap from being a successful enthusiast company to hopefully someday becoming a mass appeal brand. Lots of them don't make it. You might remember Nextbit or Essential or.
Well, I mean, see, these companies, they didn't make it because they only made one phone and then died. So that doesn't really count.
Even Asus, who had two different enthusiast hits. But OnePlus, well, OnePlus is still alive here in 2026. They've now done the whole arc from start to finish. And so they've sort of accidentally become the blueprint for survival as an enthusiast brand. And betrayal is a part of that blueprint. So let me explain. So if there's one thing that we all know has been true forever, it's that breaking into the US smartphone market is basically impossible. Like it's been this duopoly for as long as.
Well, yeah, I mean, but, you know, it makes sense. We have one that's made here, which is, you know, Apple. And then, of course, we have Samsung, was guided into the game very, very early back in 2010. So, you know, they kind of make sense. Again, these people, they don't really care. They just want to, you know, send text messages, just want to take pictures. Okay? What's on the carrier display? This? If they sign an agreement, okay? They're brand loyal.
Time has existed, it feels like. It's Samsung and Apple. And in 2014, it was also Samsung and Apple. And then,
and look at this, guys. We've talked about this before. What do you notice other than the camera? So basically the same thing. They do the same thing. MKBHD. I keep trying to call him Mr. Who's the boss. It's the same. I mean, do you see any updates? Do you see any improvements? Yeah.
And HTC and Motorola kind of fighting over the last few scraps of the last couple percent. And then this came out, the OnePlus One. You remember this? Like some of you were around for these good old days, but for those of you who are too young to remember, let me fill you in. The hype for this phone was absolutely nuts before it even started shipping. It had all these flagship specs with the latest gen Snapdragon 800.
I mean, you can probably find a phone with 4 gigs of RAM nowadays, so only a gig less of RAM. I'm going to see how it runs today. Let's see.
Series chip, and it was $300 somehow, which was unreal. Has a pretty clean design with this little new sandstone thing going on, and then it had this clean software. It was running Cyanogen mod, so this developer-friendly, clean, no bloatware experience. It was a breath of fresh air. They called it the flagship killer, because why would anyone spend the $600-700 on the Apple or Samsung flagships anymore when you can get this? At least that's what the enthusiast mindset was. But of course, the enthusiast was also the only one who was going to find the OnePlus One, you know, searching online for new smartphones and actually buying one. You needed an invite to buy one. They had this whole system.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Well, of course, it drew interest into the phone. That had the thing where you could smash the past, smash this phone for $1, which, I mean, you could probably just buy some random phone. You know, I thought about doing that for a Z Flip. Samsung said if you turned in a Z Flip, any flip phone, give me grandma's flip phone from 2003, and they give you the Z Flip for $100-something. I didn't have $100 at the time, but if I did, I was gonna be turning in a flip phone somewhere.
It was crazy hard to get. But despite all of that, they still sold over 1 million of these things, and they were immediately on the map. It was just right recipe, right time. It looked genius. But of course now, they have a dilemma on their hands because they've captured the hearts of the exact worst customer group imaginable, the enthusiast. You know, it's exciting because they're the most hype right now, but they're also the most picky. They have the highest standards, and they're somehow the least loyal because, you know, if something else pops up with slightly better specs, then they'll just leave and go buy that instead. And it's the smallest group of people relative to the population.
See, guys, look, this is what I've been talking about. The smallest people, the most annoying people, and the poorest people. Like, what are you going to do?
See that group right there? That's who you just got the attention of, the enthusiast, the early adopter. But there's this whole rest of the smartphone buying public who still doesn't even really know you exist yet. This is not sustainable, but it's a hell of a start. So now what? I've said many times, the second generation of anything tells you the most about it because that's where you see what the company learned. And
we saw that. I think that one of the best day-to-day improvement growth that has ever happened in smartphone history was the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold versus the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 2. The Z Fold 2, let's say you got a new one in the box because obviously the hinges weren't as good now. So you got a new one in the box now. It's still great. It's amazing. I was working on someone's phone at the store a few days ago. They had a Note 20 Ultra came out around the same time as the Z Fold 2. I mean, it was perfect. It had a beautiful curved screen. The apps ran, it worked. I was working on the phone. You know, the applications loaded quickly. Now, was there a lot of storage left on their phone? Yes. So maybe that's why it wasn't as slow. But I mean, it's a great phone. If I was presented the opportunity, maybe first episode of the challenge, to use the Note 20 Ultra and switch out versus my S25 Ultra, if they had a 512 gigabyte model where I could use the SD card slot, would I do that? I mean, sure, yeah. And it'd probably be a good day-to-day phone. It still has 5G. You might not get all the latest updates. I would miss the AI features. But, you know, for people who don't really care about that or are still using that today, it's basically the same thing. They're using the same software as, of course, the Z Fold. 2, the Z Fold 2 was amazing. It had a full display. It had didn't have that stupid notch anymore. It didn't have the huge bezels on the back on the front display of the screen. I mean, what are we doing here? It was a great. It was a huge leap compared to the Z Fold 1. That was like the leap from the OnePlus 2 because I forgot what it looked like.
What they're going to do about it. And that's when you first see them like pick a direction and start chasing something. So with the first OnePlus phone, they made a lot of choices, a lot of the right trade-offs to nail these things that enthusiasts were after. Like they made the active choice to leave out things that other mainstream phones had, like an official IP rating or even doing any advertising, because this would all save money that would be passed down to the end user. And tech heads, including me, we raved about this. We loved it. We ate it up. So with the OnePlus 2, you can almost see them being terrified.
My goodness, holy forehead. You can watch a movie on the back of that thing. There's a bit of a screen on it. Also, this thing looks rough. Like you could probably, use it as a sandstone grinder. Like you can just onto that thing.
Not to mess this up, they kept a lot of the same stuff, same design. They did a couple standard spec bumps and they bumped the price up just a tiny bit to $330. But they also decided to make this thing called the OnePlus X. And it was a little weird. It was not a flagship phone. It was also not really an enthusiast phone. It was a $250 mid-range kind of designer type of phone. They had a special ceramic.
I don't really get the appeal of design phones. Like, oh, it looks pretty. Like, okay, do you do anything? Like.
Limited edition that they also made. The non-ceramic one, it was a good price. It just wasn't something that enthusiasts were really interested in at all. It's just a little wobble in their otherwise pretty focused flagship killer mentality. So the OnePlus 3 and 3T were very much back to being enthusiast phones, super high-end specs, rapid iteration, lots of interesting, cool features. They were back on track. You just can't forget about that little wobble.
And of course, they skipped 4
taxes.
It's bad in some country, China, Vietnam, whatever.
Now taxes.
So if you ask someone who's been around long enough, what was peak OnePlus like?
Peak OnePlus, I'd say between like 5 and 7. OnePlus 7, amazing. Pop-up camera, curved screen, fast phone. Like I even used it. I sold it to my brother, and it was pretty fast for him until he got the camera stuck inside. I think it was already stuck, but we were able to get it out.
They'd probably say somewhere around the OnePlus 5 and the OnePlus 6, and they were on top of the world by the OnePlus 7 series. They'd iterated on the design quite a bit with thinner and thinner bezels and fingerprint readers and bigger batteries and much faster charging.
Look at this. It's a OnePlus 7. Came out like what around 2017? Sorry, not 2017. 2019? Like, if you showed someone this phone today, they'd be like, wow, what is this futuristic phone? A pop-up camera? Has a great, passable cameras. Look at the applications that we still see on here. Mapping application, Pocket Cast, Instagram, Tesla. Whoop-de-doo. Like, nice, cute pocket computers. I weep. This is what I weep about. People say I don't have empathy, but I care about the fallen smartphones. I care about the plight of all the processing power that's being wasted. I care about the gigabytes of RAM that's being, thrown to waste, and I care about all the information on the internet that I do not know. That is my existential crisis.
And they'd obviously moved on from CyanogenMod, but now they had their own flavor of Android, Oxygen OS, which was this super smooth and fast optimized software. They had a software team that had come into their own, tweaking all kinds of animations and timing and making these phones as responsive as possible. By this point, basically anyone who reviews phones or says anything about phones at all was basically on the same page that these were the best bang for the buck in the entire industry. They'd blown past like, if you know, you know status. And it was literally like, if anyone is a smartphone reviewer or has a tech blog or weighs in about smartphones at all, everyone was like, yeah.
Because let's see, this came out, cancel the vote, everybody. Let's see when this has come out. That says 4 years ago. So assuming you took the screenshot when you made this video 5 years ago. Okay. So it's probably like 2020, 2021, because YouTube's kind of late on it. Like say a video came out in 2020, like January 20. I don't know when this airs. Let's say a video came out February 24th, 2020, and he took a screenshot today. It'd still say 5 years ago instead of 6.
These are some of the best smartphones. You can even see it in the titles of my reviews back then. The OnePlus 6 was right on the money. The OnePlus 7 was under the radar. The OnePlus 7 Pro was silly fast. And the 7T Pro was tiny tweaks to excellence. I think my favorite OnePlus phone of all time would be the OnePlus 7T Pro. That thing, that is a phone I genuinely believe I could still use today and be totally happy with.
Like I said, look at these games here again. I played Asphalt before. It's mid. Okay, it's mid.
Modern design, the super clean software, the ridiculously responsive performance, the really fast charging, even the pop-up selfie camera. And it was $660. I remember so clearly. I love that. Like but even at this point, the masses are still not really buying these phones. Don't get me wrong, they're very successful, but with a niche, small audience, the early adopters, the people who will watch MKBHD smartphone reviews and then maybe pre-order one online. But most people
watch them for fun. I can't afford that.
People are not doing that. Most people are right here, buying phones in carrier stores every 3 to 4 years, buying the safe option that's pretty similar to their last option. And so if OnePlus could find a way to get from here to here, then they could finally do it. They could finally be the new company that comes along and actually breaks apart the duopoly, basically, that's been selling all the phones in the US the whole time, Samsung and Apple every year. Or they could be competitive in new markets and jump into India where there's super fast growth. And they could actually scale up and be a big player from nothing. Maybe a carrier deal in the US will do the trick, or maybe a few commercials here and there. But be careful. Careful. Don't mess this up. The enthusiasts still like you.
Interesting. I have not seen a OnePlus commercial ever. I don't think I have.
So here's the problem. You have won over the enthusiasts. It is like they all love you right now, but they are still the absolute worst group to be your prime customer base. They are the smallest group, and they are the most fickle. They have the highest standards, and they are the least loyal. This isn't sustainable. So you need to leverage this.
I mean, also, yeah, but at this point, especially in 2019, who are the other enthusiast random phone brands? Nothing doesn't exist. Is that even grammatically correct? Nothing doesn't exist. No one's going to be buying an Asus phone unless they're gamers. Like, well, what else are you gonna get?
Success over here to get to the masses, the less picky, more casual, brand loyal, large audience to actually scale up. But the thing that won over those enthusiasts is the exact opposite of what the masses want. Like all this cost cutting and spec maxing and customization and optimization you've been doing for the enthusiasts, it's great. We eat that stuff up.
I mean, it is good, but I mean, I don't understand what the difference between a OnePlus 7T and say an iPhone 11 is, other than the operating system. Still takes pictures, still has good software. If they don't like it, they can put a launcher on it. It takes good pictures and it posts to Instagram. It's the same thing. Like what exactly is this missing that average user is going to miss? Wireless charging? Like, okay.
Making the phone waterproof, but skipping the official IP rating to save a few bucks and pass those savings down to the customer. Legendary. Not really running any commercials or doing any carrier deals and selling phones directly to consumers for lower.
I mean, you could just invent your own rating, call it the OnePlus rating, and go around and rate other people's phones, get independently verified. It might cost a few $1 million. You'll be fine, your phone company.
Prices, perfect. But the masses do not really reward this type of behavior with their dollars.
The masses don't care about IP ratings. They don't know what that is. Just say it's waterproof.
At all. In fact, they want the safe option that does have the IP rating, the one that is on the shelf of the carrier store. So if you want to offer something that the masses actually want, that will be the exact something that drives the enthusiasts away. And every enthusiast brand, every single one has this realization at some point, whether they knew it right when they were starting or they very quickly realized it as they started selling it and it was all enthusiasts buying it.
I wonder how it is to be behind the scenes in these companies working, high up with like data analytics, making decisions based off of data, being a CEO. I've always been interested in stuff like this. I've talked about this, of course, multiple times over the course of this podcast. But like, what kind of technology, what kind of software were they using? The Cowboys, they were the first team to use a computer program to pick a draft, to make their draft pick. Right? What kind of software were they actually using back in the 70s? Like, what kind of software were they using? I try to look it up. No one tells me. No one tells you stuff like this. How are you supposed to learn like this? How am I supposed to become a technology CEO? And if no one knows?
And some tried to make the transition smoothly and gracefully, like Asus with the ROG phone. Like the early ROG phones, the Republic of Gamers phones, were hardware-focused gaming enthusiast phones with extra high refresh rates and all of the gaming features and design. And then they
with the worst software and trash camera stuff.
Slowly neutered it little by little and toned it down and had a less aggressive design. And
I don't know why the design was the best part about them. Right, they're very cool. They had a display on the back. I mean, if you're gonna be trash, terrible cameras. I mean, these at least better look cool. People talk about, oh, it's what's on the inside that counts, but we all know that pretty privilege exists. Apparently, Reddit doesn't know that it exists, and of course, I've been such a fan of trying to weaponizing it. Asus should have leaned into that. Weaponizing every advantage that's at their disposal, because apparently cameras aren't at their disposal.
From the edges and made room for more mainstream features like wireless charging. And that failed. Now the ROG phone is dead. You might also remember the Zen phone, which again, from Asus, they tried, not so smoothly, they actually tried to just jump. So they had a mega enthusiast hit on their hands with the Zen phone 9 and the Zen phone 10. And once again, everyone who reviewed these phones loved them. But guess what?
They got them for free. But yeah, I'm joking, dude. But I mean, of course, it was a great phone. I assume I never touched it.
The masses don't buy small phones. They want big screens.
Yeah, everyone acts like, oh man, small phones. I really love a small phone. We'll go out and buy one. And then of course they took them away. No one wants them.
So they tried this quick pivot with a huge Zenfone 11 Ultra. And well, you can see how terribly those things went pretty predictably. The mission is it's so tricky. If you want to successfully make this jump, you have to aggressively build this new audience. And you have to somehow do it faster than you lose your old one.
What can a no fee, no minimum Capital One 360 checking account do for you?
Capital One banking? A lot.
This is my title for the OnePlus 8 review. Special no more. And then these are my titles for the OnePlus 10 Pro and 10T videos. Yeah, OnePlus has somehow pulled off the most successful, but also least successful jump from from enthusiasts to mainstream.
I mean, it makes sense. I haven't been seeing them in some stores like Best Buy
that we've ever seen. Like they actually tried a bunch of things. They tried slowly adopting some of these mass market things.
I think like only one of them works. But some of them are dummy models.
It's like switching to the all glass designs instead of the metal backs. They added official IP ratings eventually for waterproofing. They also continued to turn up the price with each new phone, like slowly turning up the temperature on a stove. These are now $900 phones. So they also added a budget line called the OnePlus Nord and started making a bunch of phones that were less expensive. So they could keep selling their super expensive phones, but then they would also at least offer something that's less expensive, but it's more of like a mid-range phone. They also started making carrier deals in the US so they could start selling phones to the masses that buy in stores, and that's a different business model. And obviously these are more expensive phones to make up for that, but it's a lot going on. This is also around the time that the co-founder Carl Pei left the company. They struck a partnership with Hasselblad, starting with the OnePlus 9 series, in an effort to give people confidence about their cameras, which are very important to mainstream buyers. By the OnePlus 10, they'd almost completely lost their identity from before. They're dropping phones at this point that very closely resemble their cousin company Oppo's phones more than ever. So peak OnePlus for us enthusiasts was like
I haven't even seen that phone. Wow, that's very impressive. And of course, we'll see what OnePlus does with it as well. We're almost done with this episode. We just got to talk about what's happening over on Reddit. A bunch of Reddit dudes have COVID. So I think I have some. A bunch of Redditors think I have COVID for some reason. So I said that soda's mid and basically all taste the same, right? Every time I've had it was maybe like 2 times. But anyway, they all taste the exact same. I don't know what people are talking about with Coke versus Pepsi, Dr. Pepper. They taste like just like kind of sort of sweet. Like everyone says that soda has like a whole like tablespoons and tablespoons, 30 tablespoons of sugar or whatever per scoop. I don't know. It's very bad for you. Shouldn't be drinking it. It's not that sweet. It is not that sweet. It just tastes like kind of slightly sweet, bubbly water. They all taste the same. And look at what these commenters had to say about this. They said they most certainly do not taste the same. It's just wrong. Do you have taste buds? Do you have COVID? But if your taste buds aren't working, Bo tried Coke and Pepsi and decided all sodas taste the same. All soda tastes the same makes me think OP can't taste. At some point, I started pretending I could manually fix anime. Oh, wait, that's an ad. Lemon lime soda has no similarities to a cola or root beer. Like, all you people like, y'all are solid maze. He says, I'm going to take a bet for any sum you could care to name. I can tell the difference between Coke and Dr. Pepper. I'm not giving you a bet, man. Does this count as an objectively wrong fact on opinion of 95% of humans? No, you can't, guys. This is a PSYOP by Big Soda. They said that the carbonated flavored waters and Fanta and Dr. Pepper basically taste the same. Yes, they do. Okay, guys. Y'all don't know anything. You should get your mouths checked. That's probably go analyze their accounts, but they're all mad at me for that. But you know what we do when we're mad? We put okay, guys. It's not anyway. Let's go finally check in with the most teen of the week video. Let's have a teen of the week because we have not done that in a long time. We're gonna bring it back. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of analysis. I'm the great analyzer. They call me that. They call me other stuff too. But anyway, I'm the great analyzer. We like to use artificial intelligence to analyze pictures and photos and themes as well. So let's go analyze this post here. The most. Let's just go look at this. Shock and awe, guys. Oh my gosh, what are we doing? All right, guys, let's freeze the video here. Guys, this is the most Instagram video of all time. First of all, the movements and the dancing is kind of like they're throwing a fit trend thing where they kind of come in and they kind of like freeze up and they're throwing a fit. It's very funny, very funny. And the facial expressions and all right, guys, but look at this. Like all of the Christian Instagram girls, they all have this Bible. They all have the same Bible. It all looks like this. And they all have it like all highlighted and everything. They post a picture of it. It's so cool. All right, like we talked about how Boas just Addie was doing everything. She was doing the car. She was doing the what else she was doing? She was doing like the Bible thing. She was doing the fashion thing. She was doing, of course, the stylized Bible photos. Of course, she probably runs her own like photography company. That's like been the job of all these kids. Oh, I got a Bible verse, and I got 12,000 followers. I take pictures. I've been talking about this. Like, what do these people do? What I need for ambition? That's like the one thing I've noticed that they do. Like some of these people, they have like 40,000 followers. They don't do anything. Of course, Hazel, she has like 13,000. Great. I mean, she does a lot. I mean, she's like crisscrossing the country debating some of the dumbest people known to the Almighty. But there's that. Of course, we got the Bible, and then we got the fashion and the movement. But of course, we got to talk about this. The podcast mic. These, like I talked about the clips on stream. These people. We don't know who any of these podcasters are, but I guess maybe she's becoming one. She said she has her own podcast mic. I subscribe to that podcast. I'd be the number one subscriber. But they got these podcast mics, and they always talk about something. They don't think they're talking about something very profound, very epic. So I should get one of these mics as well. We got to get one of these. We got to hire some co-hosts so we can do stuff like this. Shout out to official teen of the week, Hazel Strip. God bless. Tech Talk to you later. We're going to be going live. Yeah, let's go.